Mzansi, and welcome back to another Health for Mzansi Power Talk. I am Joanne Prinsloo and your podcast journalist for Health for Mzansi. And today we'll be talking about positive parenting versus traditional parenting. This can get interesting. So not being a parent, I'm going to enjoy this chat and I'm going to enjoy asking the professionals. So on my left-hand side, I have Waullenbach, Tracy-Lee Waullenbach. Welcome.
That's right. Thank you so much for having me.
Only a pleasure. Thanks for joining, Tracy-Lee. So before we get started, can you just give us a very brief, because I know that list is long.
Yes.
So give us a very brief intro of who you are and what it is that you do.
I'm a clinical psychologist. I'm in private practice and I've been in private practice since 2016. So I've worked in different settings, and actually at the start of my career, I worked almost exclusively with children. So I was I worked in the public sector in schools for an NGO, and then also in the private sector. So this was my primary work for a number of years before I went into full-time private practice.
Great. I don't know if that's a soft introduction. I don't know if children can be a soft introduction, because it's probably very complex.
Absolutely. I think the biggest complexity is that we work as a team. There are always a number of role players when it comes to children. There are teachers and other medical specialists, OTs, speech therapists, and then of course parents.
Exactly.
That's what we're here to talk about.
And that's what we are here to talk about. And you know, just touching on gentle parenting or / positive parenting. It's a new term for me.
Okay.
I'm not going to lie. So what do we mean when we say gentle or positive parenting?
I think we can get really stuck on the name and the specific term. And I think if you just take the connotations around the term away and focus on the philosophy, I think that's more effective and more helpful. Okay. So the philosophy behind gentle parenting is that you're training your child to grow self-awareness, to be able to measure their own choices and consider whether or not what the consequences of those choices will be. So the huge focus is on developing self-insight, self-judgment, and the ability to know that your behaviors have consequences, and for the child to, at different ages, developmentally appropriate ways to learn how to do that for themselves.
Yeah. Can a child, does a child have the mental capacity to decide or to self-judge and to self-be aware and to kind of think about, if I don't do this, this is going to be my consequence? Yeah. Can they work it out for themselves, or does this start at a specific age?
So I don't think there's an onset age for gentle parenting. But what I do know is the earlier you start to introduce the skill, the earlier it is obviously then developed. So if children at an earlier age, you are mirroring that to them, saying, if you do this, this is the natural, logical consequence of that, and you repeatedly give that message, they start to internalize that way of thinking, and then they're able to do it by themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just having a little bit of a humor moment here, because I'm thinking maybe a lot of traditional parents are like, no, I will decide that, and I will decide the consequence, right? So if we look on the flip coin, and I don't know if it is a flip coin, if traditional parenting is the polar opposite to gentle parenting, is traditional parenting synonymous with being harsh? Because like you said, I get stuck on the gentle parenting. Yeah. So it's almost to say as opposed to.
Yeah.
You know?
I think traditionalists look at gentle parenting and go, are you too forgiving?
Yeah.
Are you too soft? Are you too permissive? I mean, that's the feedback often around gentle parenting. And I think the one fundamental difference between traditional and gentle parenting is that traditionally, the parenting style is about discipline, where there is punishment or reward, right? Okay, so if you do this, I will take away that, or you will get a hiding, or whatever it is, or I will buy you a new cell phone, or you get extra pocket money, or there is a reward system. Even things like behavior charts and that, we see that all the time.
Yes.
So I think that is sort of the general if I can say it as basic as possible, the difference between the two. Where gentle parenting encourages you to think about your actions, to make the evaluation. And if you need my help as a parent to do that, that's where I step in initially to do that. But that every consequence for a negative behavior is related to that behavior. So if you break something that's very valuable that I've told you to be careful around, it doesn't make sense to take away TV time, because how is that related to the incident?
Yeah. So as a gentle parent, how would you approach that?
So a gentle parent would look at the logical consequence. You've broken something that's really precious. If it's a material thing that needs to replace, that costs money.
Yeah.
How would a parent then have extra money to replace that material thing you've broken? And then it becomes a collaborative process between parent and child to negotiate, okay, what can you do extra around the house or at school to earn extra money to replace the thing that you've broken? That's a logical sequence as a consequence for what's gone wrong.
Yeah. You know what, I can really see the advantage in this, because I think a disadvantage of traditional parenting can be you are so used to your parent taking the lead. So when it's time for you to take that step and to take the lead and to make a decision, you question yourself.
Yeah.
Because you're normally not making the decisions. Your parents are making the decisions, and it filters down.
Absolutely. And what we see with the reward punishment system is you haven't actually learned anything.
You're just scared.
Yeah.
You are just scared.
You are, and you think about the fear of losing something. That's often what punishment is, or the fear of injury, like if your parents were prone to spanking or timeouts or those kinds of things, or you fear isolation, which is like what timeouts and that kind of thing enforces. So the mental neurological network that's built in your brain, it doesn't make sense. And how are you supposed to apply that model when, like you say, when you are independent out in the world and you have to think about your behavior?
Now you're like, oh, I never had to make a decision for myself.
What's the reward here? Do I give it to myself? Does the world give it to me? Am I reliant on that? Yeah. And can I really measure my choices and my behavior and see if that will make both me and the people around me physically and emotionally safe? And that's one of the core things behind gentle parenting, is fostering a environment that for both parent and child and people who they interact with to be both physically and emotionally safe.
Good stuff are coming out here. Can I just ask, can gentle parenting be a parenting style that's uniform? Meaning, does every child respond to gentle parenting? Or does certain children need a traditional approach, and does certain children need a more gentle approach?
That's a fabulous question, because we do know that children have different temperaments.
Yeah.
Some are more lively and sociable, some are more headstrong and stubborn.
Yes. So to come in there, have you ever heard a parent say, like, okay, this child, I never had to worry about this child.
Absolutely.
I never had to ask, when are you going to study?
Do you have siblings?
I don't have siblings. But I hear this.
Yes.
And then you hear them say, but my other child, it's a mess.
Yes. So the thing about any style of parenting, let me say that, is that there shouldn't be rigid black and white rules. That's why it's not about the rules you follow or the 1, 2, 3 steps that you take. It's about the philosophy. The philosophy around gentle parenting is that you show empathy for your child, respect, understanding, and that you have that you show up consistently, that the message is consistent. And no matter the temperament or personality of the child, those values or principles still apply.
Okay.
How you implement the tools around gentle parenting is adjusted to the child's developmental level and to the child's unique personality, their interests even, and personality. So the tools in gentle parenting is connection, communication, and like I said, consistency. So how you communicate to a specific child would then be tailored to their personality.
Yeah.
How you communicate with them Do you need to be more sensitive? Do you need to be more direct? Do you need to be more humorous?
Yeah.
That then is different. But do I think it can work with all children? Absolutely.
Yeah. I think it's just kind of seeing, like you saying, what are the behavioral sort of aspects of the child and seeing what goes.
And I think too, part of the philosophy is an appreciation for individuality.
Yeah, there we go.
Which I think sometimes traditional parenting misses.
It's a one-size-fits-all approach.
Yes.
You know, I've been doing it this way because my mother and her mother
there we go.
and her mother,
there we go.
You know, I've been doing this for years.
Yeah.
So speaking of which, like I mentioned earlier on, I'm not a mom yet.
Yes.
You're a mom?
I am a mom.
So how was that journey like? I know you're a new mom.
Yeah.
So a year and a half.
I will say that becoming a parent has really given me empathy for my own parents. I don't know, but it was like a light switch changed when I became a parent, because you're constantly making decisions that consider your child and what.
It's not about you anymore.
No.
Yeah.
And things around, you know, I have a more sensitive 1-year-old, so who is more clingy to mom or whatever. What does that mean around which type of school I choose, how big that school is, or when he starts weaning off.
Yeah.
You know, all of those things, I make decisions because I'm so deeply considerate of who he is, not just what the textbook says or what advice I'm getting from family members. I'm considering his individuality.
Yeah.
And parents, let me tell you, parents have a lot of guilt as it is. There's so much pressure to get it right. There's so much pressure to do a good job and to follow all the advice that's in the media and that's all around you, and the school's telling you what to do and professionals are telling you what to do. So I think parents face a lot of persecution as is.
Yeah.
So we are hard on ourselves too. So I think that we need to be a lot more forgiving and graceful and give parents grace.
Yeah.
And so I've done that with my own parents, going, they may have been more traditional for sure.
Okay.
But I do believe that they did the best that they could with what they knew.
Okay.
At
and
the
with
time.
what they had.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And do you think that, I wanted to ask a question now. Yes. Your background and your skill set and your experience, did that help you in any way? To kind of reach this thought process, you know,
Yes.
I'm going to look at this from my child's point of view, like he's an individual. Yeah. It's not one size fits all. So let's see where this goes.
Yeah. People ask me all the time about whether or not I'm looking at attachment theory, if I'm analyzing, you know, what exactly I'm doing with him and how I'm bonding and applying and actually all of that, I wouldn't say it goes out the window because my knowledge and my background always is with me and is my reference, but I just am quite intuitive. And I think I stick to, again, the philosophy. I have great empathy for him and where he's at. I'm trying to, at every opportunity, to understand him at his 1-year-old way of seeing the world. And I think that's what's important, is that you are in tune with the philosophy more so than trying to follow specific black and white or rigid rules.
Guidelines 1 to 10.
No. Oh, no. Yeah.
Definitely not.
Health for Mzansi is WhatsApp official. At Health for Mzansi, we put people first. So we have created a safe space where you can get access to our latest health features and be part of a health community. Join our Health Squad or Health Heroes group for more information. Don't forget to follow us on social media.
Hello, I am Mzansi and welcome back to the Health for Mzansi Power Talk, where we continue the discussion of gentle parenting versus traditional parenting. And we are joined by Khanyisane. I had to get that right. Khanyisane, welcome.
Thank you.
Good to have you join the conversation.
Glad to be part of the conversation.
Yes. So before we get into the thick of things, just give us a brief description of what it is that you do and where you find yourself.
I'm a mathematics teacher, senior teacher. Weekends, I'm a candler. And then on long holidays, I'm a camper.
Okay, lovely. Lovely, do it all. So, given by your profession, you have a lot of experience with children and parents. Which one is easier? Which one is easier? Yeah. So, have you ever had a situation where you had to not necessarily approach the parent with regards to the child's academic performance, but maybe talking to the parent's parenting style? Because you can see it has an impact or influence on how the child performs at school. Maybe there might be some anxiety around, I have to do this because my parents expect this of me.
Oh, we get a lot of that. I teach at a school for learners with special needs, learning needs, and a lot of the parents take on that anxiety that we expect the child to have. So most of the time, it's not the child that has issues or that's worrying or that's stressing. It's the parent, because they've taken on the whole, experience of the child. It's as if the parent is the one that's at the school. Wow. So obviously, because, it's you can't tell a parent how to be a parent. Yeah. So we always have to give a gentle
gentle approach to gentle parenting. Love it.
Exactly. So most of the time, it's about letting them know what they're doing well. Mm-hmm. Because I think that's, as people, parents, even those who don't have children, we just want to know that we're doing well. Mm-hmm. Everyone has the fear of failure. So to say you are doing well, but never say that your parenting style is a bit. Yeah. No. We say, you let them know what they're doing well, and then you make suggestions.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. You make suggestions and say, what if you allow the child to maybe make their own decisions every now and then? Maybe it would give them a chance to grow. We want to have children be able to self-regulate. How about we try and give the child an opportunity to have chances to learn how to self-regulate? You've done everything. Yeah. You've done everything well, but let's try this other dynamic. Let's open up a few opportunities for the child to learn some decision-making skills. So that's the approach you usually take, because you have to be gentle. Yes. It's all about emotions, and emotions are heavy things. No one wants to be a failure or a bad parent or a bad child.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we were discussing. I think parents look at the parenting role as, I cannot fail at this. Everything needs to go according to plan. And sometimes there can be, dynamics maybe between a young mom and her mom. Because her mom believes that this has always worked for 50 years because my mom has done this and her mom has done it. So of course, it needs to work. What would your comment be on that? Like, how do we gently move from traditional spaces and parenting to more gentle, and like opening those discussions up with our moms? I don't know if you are a mom.
Not yet.
Okay, we're in the same boat.
But I have a mother whom I've had to have difficult conversations with. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the answer. Just open yourself up to difficult conversation. Mm-hmm. Allow yourself to be uncomfortable, because if you want to have a breakthrough, you have to be uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And that's it. We have to have conversations. We have to be uncomfortable. And it's not going to be something that happens, immediately.
Yeah, in a week.
It's something that has to take time. It's something that you're going to have to plan. And I'd advise people to see professionals. Yeah. I think the world is changing so quickly. We don't all have the answers. The best way is to seek out a professional. If that's too expensive, someone to mediate. If you have some community member, someone you trust. There's so many free resources, and we take it for granted, and we think, no, it's just something small, it's just within the family. Yeah. But it's actually important to have a third person there, or someone else that is someone that's trained to deal with these situations, to help guide us, because we don't have the answers. We're all learning at a very fast pace because society is forcing us to.
It's changing. I want to say something on that. I think parents put a lot of pressure on themselves to have the answers, and exactly like you said, I think parents think parenting is about what I do with my child, to my child, for my child. But I think that there has to be a little bit more faith in children's ability and their own internal resources. Children are resilient. They have a certain wisdom too. And yes, that needs a lot of guidance and direction, but they too bring something to the table. And so when we're talking about working on yourself as a parent, I think that you need to know what your beliefs are about parenting and how you were parented and your triggers around what your children do, what behaviors they display that trigger you, because that will greatly affect how you approach this and your ability to have gentle, more collaborative parenting.
And that's why we need to see people like you, Tracy-Lee. Question to you, can one learn someone how to be a parent? Or is it something that's just so inherently part of us? It's when it happens inside of you, and there you go.
I think that you can learn anything. That's my philosophy on life, and I think that you can learn anything if you are willing. I do think that you need to put in the effort and the understanding, but I also think that there has to be room for you to falter. No matter what parenting approach you do, you make mistakes, you wobble, you
normalize mistakes.
Please, because I think the ideal of having it perfect or knowing exactly what to do or following some pattern, and again we're talking about the rigidity of rules and guidelines, it's completely unrealistic. And so if you can just be a lot more empathetic with parents who are flawed, you can then accept the flaws within yourself. I think that's what happened to me when I became a parent. I had such empathy for my mom's flaws because I too am now a flawed mom. And I think you are hard on your own parent when you're going through the teen years and you're wrestling with all of those things.
It's a lot.
But when I could accept that my mom was imperfect, but loved me greatly and tried to do the best that she could do, there was a deep appreciation for that. And that's a real authentic relationship rather than having it textbook perfect.
Like we said, there's no steps 1 to 10. You were going to say, Khanyisane?
Sure. As you were speaking, I thought of something I saw. What was it? Don't let a good trigger go to waste.
Ooh, what does that mean?
Allow yourself to get triggered and then work on it, because it's opening, it's telling you about something that maybe you haven't explored that you need to look at. And then again, I work in an organization where, as soon as you find out as a parent that your child is on the spectrum, or if they have special needs, it becomes a shock, because this is not something that you're kind of born with, because this is the normal kind of thing. We think you're just born to be a parent, but when you have a child with special needs, everything changes. So because of that environment, I think I've been exposed to a lot of parents that are willing to learn and are learning, because it's a scary journey, as I can imagine. So any individual, I think we should always want to know more. We should always... Parenting is a skill, It's a skill that you should develop. You should... Don't be scared to take a textbook and read on how to parent. It doesn't mean you're any less of a parent, or you're not.
And there's no shame in that.
There's no shame.
You don't have to read it in your room with the door closed. You don't want anyone to see the title of the book.
There are workshops, there are YouTube videos. There's so much information out there. You just need to accept that perhaps, it's not even about accepting. It's about understanding that it's a continuous journey. You learn from day 1 up until the last day.
You never stop learning.
You never stop learning. So I think it's a huge thing. And even before you become a parent, there's opportunities to start learning. If you made a decision that you want to have children one day, start thinking about the type of parenting approach that you want to take on. Start thinking about the type of individual you want to raise, and look into developing that skill, and what can you do to prepare for that time when it does come.
So, on that topic, what happens if the partner couple, or doesn't necessarily have to be husband and wife, but for argument's sake, the female is more of a gentle parent approach and the male is more of a stern, traditional approach, and there's just a bit of confusion. As a psychologist, how do you, because you will talk differently to both of them at the same time. You know, what's the complexity in that?
It is complex. Like I said initially, one of the principles behind positive or gentle parenting is consistency. And so with any effective parenting approach, even scientifically, the research is showing us that consistency and predictability are one of the key factors for resilience. So having parents on the same page, agree about the rules and the approach is extremely important. Anytime there is confusion at different age levels, that's really hard on children because they know what to expect. They're not quite sure what the boundaries are and how far to test them or explore them. We use that word instead of test. And so I think it's incredibly difficult on a child if parents have different approaches and aren't in agreement on what the approach is.
Experience in the classroom at parent-teacher meetings,
Khanyisane? We see it. If there's a difference in principles and rules, if we see it, there's confusion from the child. As you said, they need structure. There needs to be consistency. And as soon as we have just a slight discrepancy in how the one parent does things and how the other, there's utter and complete confusion in the classroom, and then it reflects in the marks as well. And so now it looks as if it's the child's problem, but actually the child is just showing us a symptom. It's something that comes from home. So I think it's important, if you decide to have children, when you do have children, I think as partners there needs to be a discussion. What is the plan forward? I'm an analytical person. I want to sit down and plan everything. From how we're going to start, what's going to be in the middle, what's going to be
I'm with you on that.
So I think those discussions are very important. Everyone has to be open to, talking.
With that said, we're not looking for two parents to be the same. There's a difference.
We're looking for two parents that can meet each other in the middle.
We're looking for parents who bring their own individual personality and styles, but are in unity and agree on philosophy. So the approach and the philosophy and the principles are the same. But dad can have a very sociable personality and be loud and active.
And mom can be shy.
And mom can be maybe more introverted, or the planner who, takes care of when we go on holiday, every single detail. Personality, I think it's important for children to see different ways of being in the world. So it's not that they have to be the same personality or same person, but what has to be aligned is the philosophy.
Ladies, is there still a space for traditional parenting in 2023 and beyond? Can it be all bad? I'm sure the myths and the stories that have traveled from 19, there are some good parts we can nitpick and take out and carry forward with our own children. So
definitely. I think from my experience in the classroom, I think a lot of parents are trying to be gentle parents.
What a shift.
But
can I ask, is it younger parents?
Younger parents, of course. But I think because we don't, it's a skill, So what happens is there's a buzzword. gentle parenting. People pick this up, or you know that you don't want to repeat what was done to you, or you don't want to have your child to have the same experience that you had while growing up. So I see a lot of gentle parenting, but then what happens is we lose that element that was so important in the traditional parenting, the structure, giving children structure, routine, and guidance. I think it's such a complex, parenting is a complex thing, and you know what you want, you know the end goal, but if there's no guidance from an external person, a professional, then there's so much room for what's the word?
Growth.
Of course, room for growth, but there's also room for mistakes that sometimes you can't take back. And with kids, it's so important to just try your best, I guess. So I think learn, get help, get guidance. This is for parents now, because, and it's gentle parenting. I think there's this misconception that it's about I'm gonna be a yes mom.
Yes,
you know,
that you're permissive.
Don't say, what's that thing that was, don't say no to the child. And there's all these videos on Instagram, just let them be, and
guide who they already are.
It's an oversimplification
yes.
of it. And there's no judgment on my side on traditional parenting. There are certain things about that, like, you know, being forced to toughen up because of certain circumstances, you know, that the economic times and the history of our country forced certain cultures and certain groups to do that. There wasn't a choice. Our parents were overwhelmed with other things that were going on. And so I understand that in context, that was the best approach. I don't have any judgment on traditional parenting. I also think that there's this narrative that gentle parenting is new. It absolutely isn't. It may have just been
one of those people. I'm like, oh, this is a new thing.
No, I
new thing that came out.
It's a millennial thing.
Let's try it.
No, I think that it's popularized now because of the widespread media attention and people, you know, speaking out on it. But theorists hundreds of years ago were talking about being attuned. We're talking about empathy. We're talking about connecting with children for things like secure attachment. So it's not a new concept. I think it just became a little bit buzzword and is more widespread in the media. It's not new. So again, like I said, I don't have judgment on traditional parenting. I think the thing that would be the lasting thought for me is whichever parenting approach you do take, consistently become curious about why you do certain things. If there's a reward chart or a punishment or a timeout or spanking or whatever your style you choose to approach, what is your why? How does that, what are you teaching your child? Where does that come from? What beliefs inside of you as a parent is driving your motivation to take that specific approach? And I think as long as you are constantly reflecting on your own process of why you've chosen a certain thing, that's more important. Because if you can answer those questions for yourself, rather than, I think that's what they talk about when they say conscious versus unconscious parenting. Are you thinking about your parenting style rather than just, this is what my parents did, so I do that.
So I think the term you can really leave it at is intentional. Move with intention. And when we know better, we do better, even when it comes to parenting. So ladies, thank you so much for your contribution. Is there any last thoughts that you want to leave us with for the parents, and it is for the month of June, month of youth? Any final words from your side?
The youth are relying on us for direction and guidance. But I think most of all, young people of any age, I've worked with ages all across the board, is that they're looking for relationship, to be understood and to be connected with. And above all else, that should be the priority. And it doesn't mean you're overly permissive or you don't have rules. They need the boundaries, but out of a place of relationship and understanding, so that they can grow the internal resources themselves. And then don't be so hard on yourself as a parent. None of us are perfect. Even the ones who have studied these theories and practices for years, we all falter and make mistakes. If you can show your child you can make a mistake and be thoughtful about that mistake and come back and be intentional about correcting it, that's a bigger and better lesson you want to teach your child than, I'm trying to get it perfect all the time.
Yeah. Khanyisane?
Children have voices, beautiful voices, and they really just want to be heard. But even saying that, let them speak when they want to speak. They'll open up when they want to open up. But when they do, hear them and listen.
Sure. Ladies, thank you so very much for your valuable contribution. I got some nuggets of wisdom for myself as well for the journey ahead. But thank you so much for joining us on the Health for Mzansi Power Talk. See you next time.